all you need to start playing with this tool is a computer and a web browser. All you need to do is go to this website called editor.p5js.org. So as you can see here, it's a web editor with this library built in. In p5.js, the two main functions here, one is the setup function and the other one is the draw function. And the setup function basically gets called once to set up, like, as you can see here, there's a function called create canvas, and it's create a canvas with 400 to 400 pixels. And then the draw loop actually gets called 60 frames per second. And this allows you to do different types of animation. What if I run this? So this is like how easy it is. Basically, you just put in some code and you can just click a play button and you can just right away see what you can make. So as you can see here, right now, what you have right here is basically, I'm creating a canvas of size 400 to 400 pixels. If you change here, say 600 to 600, it will just change automatically. The background here takes in RGB value. If you put only one value in, 0 is black and 255 is white. So that's why you can see a light gray here, but I can put in other values. So if I want like a red color, which is 255, 225, no, 255, 0, 0, and the background turns red. Okay. So I'm gonna put it back to something a little bit lighter. Okay, so now I wanna just like make some static shapes on the screen. So there's a bunch of functions. If you wanna make a circle, you can just have an ellipse function, and the two first variables are the X and Y position. So I'm just gonna put it at, let's say like 100, 100, and then you can give it the size of its diameter. So let's say 50, 50. And you just click play. And you can see here, there are different functions where you can manipulate the shapes, the colors and the stroke of these circles. So the stroke functions give it the color of the strokes. So let's say I want like a color, yellow. And then you can do like stroke weight, and then this gives you the weight of the stroke. So you really can see like it's very easy. There's all these like pre-built functions where you can just try it and then click play, and then you can see like the result right away. Why don't we try a different shape functions? Let's say like a rectangle, and you give it also a position. What if we have it at half of the width and maybe half of the height, so it's going to be smack down in the middle, and then we give it the size, the width, and the height of 100 and 100. Okay, so with rectangles, you can do different mode as well. The pre-built mode is the corner mode. The X and Y position is at the top left corner, and then the size of the 100 and 100 is here. But if I were to put the rectangle mode at the center, you can see that it shifts. So it becomes the middle point is the X and Y position here. Okay, and you can also like, I don't want any color in my rectangle anymore. Just, then you can also do no stroke. But give it some color still. The reason that I'm trying to figure out why it change the colors here too. But if you want the color of the two shapes to be different, then you can, put in, and the next one will override the first one. Okay, so this is not the only things I'm showing you. There will be more exciting stuff coming up. But I just want to build like the basic foundation for you to understand, how it works, what it can do. So yeah, let's start with some static shapes. What I mentioned before, that the loop function actually draws 60 frames per second, right? So I'm gonna show you now just an ellipse here. Just do 0 and I want to show you that when we do animations, there are like different types of inputs that you can do to actually manipulate the shapes, right? So the three types that I want to show you today, the first one is using user input. The second one is giving it some sort of like a fixed equation. And the third one is this random function that gives it like random values. And that actually can create like pretty interesting generative artwork. Let's start with the first one where I give it some fixed equation. So I'm gonna now set like a variable so let me just do X and Y, let's start at 0. Okay, so now instead of okay. So now what I'm basically doing is that I'm going to initialize it at the point 0, 0 here, and I'm giving it each frame, it's going to increase the value X and Y by 10. And so can someone tell me what you expect it to look like?
It's going to move across the screen.
Exactly. Very fast. So you can change the values here. So this is every frame per second, it's going to move one to the right and one down. So what's interesting, and you can find a lot of tutorials online as well, is a lot of people like do kind of like physics simulations with code. And what I mean by that is if you add some like velocity and acceleration, you can build like a bouncing ball on the screen. Oh, but before I do that, let me show you something pretty cool. So as you can see here, the draw function calls 60 frames per second. And that's why you can see that it's moving from one corner to the other. But actually, the reason that you can see this is because the background is drawn every single time. So you only see one circle. But what if I put this at the setup function? Now it looks pretty interesting too, because now the background only gets drawn once. So you can see like a lot of different things that you can kind of experiment with this. What if I, kind of change?
What did you do to make it draw the background one time?
Yeah, so as you can see here, there's the setup function and then there's a draw function. The setup function only gets called once, and I put the background there. So it only gets drawn one time. And then now I'm drawing the circle that gets moved from one corner to the other 60 times per second. And that's why you can see that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, pretty cool. Okay, so I want to give it a little bit of a speed. Basically, like what I'm doing here, I'm actually giving it a speed, right? So I have it move 1 pixel per second per frame, and then 10 pixels per frame for the Y direction. But I'm gonna add it as a variable so you can see like it changing, and then you can manipulate that easily. So X equals to X. And then, so basically I'm doing the exact same thing I just did. Okay, so nothing complicated here. And then I'm also going to give it a direction so that, and what I want to do is I want the circle to bounce around. So I need to create like a border detection. Direction equals to 1.
Does does the website have a documentation too, Pat?
Yes, the website actually has really great documentation. So I can show you that at the end. But it has a lot of documentation. It has a lot of projects that the community puts out. So you can like look at their code and kind of play around from not just like from scratch as well. So in the interest of time, I'm just gonna copy what I made before. So basically what I have here is that I say that if it hits, if X position hits the width, or goes beyond, if it goes off screen to the left, then I'm gonna switch the direction. So it just switched the speed. So it goes left or go right. And then this one does the same thing, but go to the bottom or goes to the top. So let's try it. And then I'm gonna put the background back here so we can just see one circle. Ooh. And a great thing about this is that it gives you a console that tells you all the errors, but because this is like supposed to be beginner friendly, or like it's a tool for like artists and designers as well. So they also try to make like these errors messages like kind of cute and like not scary. You can see like there's this flower. I don't know if it helps, but yeah. Okay.
To lower the
So,
intimidation.
yes. So basically I put the D here, but basically and start this. Right now it just detects that I am at the in this loop, so it just like went back and forth. So I'm just gonna give an initial position somewhere else. No. First time live coding, everyone. See. Okay, so now
Yeah.
you get the ball bouncing. Okay, so let's give maybe like make it a little bit not as fast.
That is so
Okay.
cool.
So another function that I want to play around, just to show you some more tools that you can play around with, is what if I give the color of the circle based on the position it is on the screen. So right now there's no color at all. So I'm just gonna give it no stroke. So there's gonna be no stroke here, but then I'm gonna put a fill, and the fill gives the RGB value. But what if I say that it's gonna, so the values here, the RGB values goes from 0 to 255, right? So what I want to do is I want to create another variable called count, and count can be started at 0. Then I'm going to say like every frame, let's increase it by 1. And so if count is equals to 255, then let's bring it back to 0. I'll just count here, 0, 0. So as you can anticipate here, so the RGB values, because I give 0 and 0 here, it's basically just changing the R value. So it's going to go from 0 to 255. So what you can expect here is that, what do you think it's going to look like?
It's gonna go through all the colors.
Or just
All the
red.
colors. Huh?
Wait, all the colors are just red.
Okay, let's see what it's going to look like.
Oh, from black to red. Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah.
So if you put count for all 3 positions, will it do it
Yeah.
like
What do you think it's going to look like?
it's a rainbow?
I think
I
it's
don't
going
know.
to
It might just be like gray or brown.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it just, yeah, it's great.
Okay.
Because each one increases at the same rate. So it's just sort of going through the gray.
So
Right?
basically, this looks exactly like if you were just to have one value, which is just a grayscale.
So if you did count and then for the next position you did count -1, and then the other one count +1, would that make it do different colors?
I think it.
Still would.
No, because I think you know
It's
why?
still relatively
Because
close to
because
each
like
other. And
right now it only goes to 0 to 255, but by adding up to actually let's try it. I don't maybe a little bit
it
different.
would, I think it would have to be like different variable like differences.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
because if you're always subtracting 1 or adding 1, like you're still within the same color
The same
scale.
range, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. This is like the type of things that like I want to kind of give you an idea of what you can explore with. Yeah. So this was like what I was playing last night, and I thought it was cool. So I want to show you before I move on to the next thing. So let's yeah, it's all like symmetrical. I guess it's at the same speed, but it just like makes pretty cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And like if you give it different speed, then it's, you know, and you can make like, if you guys are familiar with like object-oriented programming, then you can like make objects and make it varies in size, make it varies in speed, and you know, kind of just play around. Okay, cool. Okay, so this one is by giving it like a specific equations or something like that, right? So what we have here is the speed plus the position plus the speed. What if I give it like a user input? So now I'm actually going to give I'm going to give the position based on the mouse position. And I'm going to have it draw an ellipse again, nothing new. And now it's basically, you know, you can see here right now it's just a mouse position, but if you were to connect this with some other types of inputs, you can kind of create like art based on some user input, which could be pretty cool as well. I want to show you how we can do. So I already introduced you to how to create rectangles and circles or ellipse, but this is just another another thing that you can play around. So this is just a line. Okay, cool. There's also another function that can be really useful in a lot of cases, and it is a function called map, and it's basically takes in 5 variables. It takes in the value you want to map. So in this case, I want to map the mouse position. So the mouse position, basically the mouse X position can go from 0 to the size of the canvas, right? The width of the canvas. So it's going to go from 0 to width. Then I want to go back to the basic. I want it just to map the color the color of my line. Do you see that?
It's awesome.
Wow.
And what if I do something, say this one is X, and then I do something with the Y position too. So it gives it a little bit like a gradient coming down. So this one, I'm gonna map it to height, and maybe I just do color Y. Okay, so that's the map function. There's another function that is useful in a lot of cases when you do these type of like drawing and animation as well. And it is called the rotate function. Okay, so the reason that you can't see this because it's rotating around this point right here. But maybe if I were to rotate a little bit less, you can see it. Yeah, so you see it was here. And then I rotate by pi over 10, and it moves to this position because it's rotate about the X, the 0 point. This is the axis of rotation. But if you want to rotate it, about its own, like within its own shape, that's why you need to put in this function called translate. And this basically just translates the point of the axis of rotation. So right now, so before here, I'm gonna put the rect mode to center. So I draw this square at the middle, right? And then I say I want to rotate it by pi over 10, and it moves to this point. But now I said, no, I actually want to rotate it, but I still want it to be at the center. So I put in this translate. So right now, everything is translated about this point. And so when you draw the rectangle, you can put it at 0 and 0. Okay, so this one without rotation, this one with rotation. And what we can do is, just for you to see, maybe it's in radians, so maybe do a smaller. There, so it's just rotating around the same point. And you can see, like, you can do this in big shapes, you can change the size of it, and you can just make like kind of cool stuff with it. Let me move to the next thing. The next thing I want to show you is a random function, which is a pretty cool function as well. So now that we're playing with a rectangle, why don't we just continue with that? I'm not giving it any user input anymore. So stuff. All right, let me just try a random function. So a random function basically just gives you a random value, and you can put in I think it's exclusive of the second value, and I don't think you have to put in 0, but usually I do put in the 0. So I'm gonna say I want the x value to be between 0 and width. Give me a random number. And then I want the y value to be between 0 and height. Okay. So now because I put my background here, what you're gonna see is yeah, just a bunch of squares in different locations. What if I also vary the size as well? And now just maybe putting it all together with what we did before. There. Yeah, this is the random function. So I just want to recap what I've shown you today. So I show you some static shapes that you can draw, whether it be an ellipse, a rectangle, or a line, but you can do many other types of things too. You can even like have points as like vertex points and then like connect them together, or you can do an arc to make like a semicircle. I show you how to vary like the styles of the shapes, right? And then to make animation, we went through 3 different types. The user input, and I did it based on the mouse position. Then we did it based on the equations. And the third one is with a random function.